Most people still think Calabogie is just a ski hill, but what's actually being built there could become much bigger than what most people realize. And honestly, the more I researched this project, the more it started feeling less like a condo launch and more like early stages of a four-season destination ecosystem attempting to build a long-term resort brand. That's a very different scale of ambition, and if they execute well, I think this could become one of the more interesting resort market stories in Ontario over the next decade, because this appears to be aiming at something much larger than simply build condos beside a ski hill. What they actually appear to be building is tourism infrastructure, hospitality systems, managed rental operations, lifestyle experiences, and long-term destination economics. And that changes the investment conversation completely. Now, to be clear, this isn't a hype video or buy this product now type of pitch. That's not how I look at real estate. What I look at is infrastructure, tourism durability, long-term positioning, operating models, accessibility, and whether a market is building something sustainable over time. And honestly, one of the things that surprised me the most is how much emphasis appears to be placed on creating year-round activity. Because one of the biggest risks in resort investing is seasonality. We all know that. A ski hill alone creates seasonal traffic, but diversified tourism creates economic durability. And that's a very important distinction. Because when you look at what's being emphasized here, it's not just skiing. It's skiing, of course, but hiking, golf, lake activity, boating, mountain biking, beaches, weddings, corporate retreats, restaurants, events, and broader lifestyle experiences. And strategically, that matters a lot because weddings create event demand. Golf creates summer traffic. Restaurants create local economic activity. Corporate retreats create weekday occupancy. Lake activity expands summer tourism. The more diversified the tourism drivers become, the more durable the destination potentially becomes. Now, obviously, in life, there are no guarantees, but strategically, that's a much stronger model than a purely seasonal tourism market. And honestly, I think this is where many people are missing the bigger picture. Because I don't think people are just buying condos here. I think they're buying optionality, lifestyle flexibility, experiential ownership, and exposure to long-term destination growth. You can almost start visualizing what this area could potentially look like in 8 or 10 years from now. People walking between restaurants at night, outdoor patios full in the summer, weddings happening on weekends, ski traffic in the winter, families around the lake, corporate retreats during the week, events bringing people into the area year-round. And if enough infrastructure continues building around that, well, the area starts evolving from a ski destination to a true lifestyle destination. And what's interesting about destination markets is that they often compound over time. One development attracts more visitors attract restaurants, restaurants attract events, events attract hospitality demand, and hospitality demand attracts more development. And eventually, the ecosystem itself becomes the attraction. And that's where projects become much more powerful long-term. And honestly, I think this aligns very closely with a broader shift happening in how people think about ownership now. People increasingly value experiences, flexibility, convenience, and optionality. They want assets they can actually use and enjoy while still maintaining investment exposure. And I think projects like this increasingly sit at the intersection of lifestyle and investing. You can also start visualizing the ownership experience itself. A winter ski weekend, summer lake activity, golf during the day, restaurants at night, corporate retreats during the week. Then, while you're not using the property, it transitions back into a professionally managed rental system. And that's very different ownership experience than traditional cottage ownership. And honestly, I think that's where a lot of the appeal comes from. most people still think about vacation property ownership the old way. You buy a cottage, then suddenly you become the property manager, the booking coordinator, the cleaner, the maintenance contact, the pricing strategist, and the guest communication department. And for many people, that becomes exhausting very quickly. But what's interesting here is that it appears to be aiming for something much more centralized and hospitality driven. From what I've seen, the goal appears to be creating a professionally managed rental ecosystem where ownership becomes significantly more passive. Instead of every owner independently trying to manage short-term rentals, the infrastructure appears designed around centralized booking systems, professional management, hospitality operations, dynamic pricing systems, guest servicing, and coordinated rental distribution. Now, let's look at traditional Airbnb on this side versus the hospitality ecosystem on this side. On one side, you've got owner-managed versus centralized operations. You've got manual pricing versus dynamic pricing systems. You've got operational stress versus managed guest services. You also have fragmented bookings versus coordinated distribution. You have inconsistent standards versus hospitality systems. And psychologically, that changes the ownership experience dramatically because now the property functions less like a second job and more like a professionally operated lifestyle asset. That distinction matters, especially for professionals, business owners, affluent buyers, and investors who value convenience and flexibility. Because many people want exposure to hospitality-style real estate, but they don't want operational headaches, constant coordination, or active day-to-day management. And that's where professionally managed hospitality systems become very attractive. You can personally use the property whenever you want. And when you're not using it, that unit can transition back into a professionally managed rental pool designed to support occupancy and tourism demand. And I think this reflects a broader trend happening in lifestyle investing overall. People increasingly want experiences and flexibility and personal enjoyment and investment exposure all at the same time, not just owning a property that sits empty most of the year. Now, obviously, every rental program has different rules, they have different structures, they have different fees, restrictions, seasonality risk, and performance variability. And nobody should view this as guaranteed income. That would be irresponsible. But strategically, the operating model itself is extremely interesting because hospitality ecosystems become much more powerful once tourism demand grows, once occupancy stabilizes, once amenities expand, and once the destination branding strengthens over time. And if the broader Calabogie ecosystem continues evolving successfully, the rental infrastructure itself potentially becomes part of the long-term value proposition. And that's a very different framework than buying a cottage and hoping that the renters show up. And even the layouts themselves tell you a lot about who this project is targeting. This doesn't feel like the traditional cottage design. A lot of these layouts appear intentionally designed around hospitality usage, group accommodations, efficient guest flow, lock and leave simplicity, and experiential travel. Another thing that surprised me is how strategically positioned Calabogie actually is. It's 1 hour from Ottawa, 25 minutes from Arnprior, 25 minutes from Renfrew, 2 hours from Kingston, 3 hours from Montreal, 4 hours from Toronto. Accessibility drives tourism durability. The easier the destination is to access, well, obviously, the broader the potential feeder market becomes. And when you combine Ottawa professionals, Toronto weekend traffic, Montreal tourism, event-driven travel, and corporate retreat potential, you start seeing how this could evolve into something much larger over time. And honestly, Ontario doesn't have that many true four-season destination ecosystems. Building one successfully creates a very defensible long-term market position because once a destination reaches critical mass, tourism, infrastructure, hospitality, restaurants, events, and brand identity, they all start reinforcing each other. And this also ties into something I talked about in a recent video a couple weeks ago about off-market opportunities. A lot of the best real estate opportunities don't suddenly appear one day fully mature and obvious to everyone. They evolve over years through phases, through relationships, through infrastructure, through staying close to emerging opportunities before the broader market fully pays attention. And one thing that sophisticated buyers understand is that multi-phase projects evolve very differently over time. Early phases often look very different than in later phases. The pricing changes, amenities evolve, inventory changes, layouts evolve, the market perceptions evolves. That's why understanding timing and positioning inside a project like this matters so much strategically. And this is also where relationships and experience matter during the actual purchase process. Because projects like this evolve continuously. As I had mentioned, inventory changes, rental structures evolve, builder incentives evolve, future phases evolve, and one of the advantages we have here at Metro City is that there's already an established relationship and a level of trust with the builder, and that's been built over time. So if somebody is seriously evaluating an opportunity like this, my role isn't simply opening the door. My role is helping people understand what has sold, understand what's available, compare the layouts strategically. We want to evaluate the rental program. We want to understand future phases and think through whether an opportunity like this fits your actual goals and your risk profile. Because with resort-style developments especially, strategy matters. Unit selection matters. The phase timing matters. The ownership structure matters. And having somebody guide you through that process thoughtfully can make a very big difference long term. And this is where the conversation stops being, would I buy a ski condo, and starts becoming, could this area evolve into one of Ontario's more important four-season destination economies over the next decade or so? And that's a very different question, because smart investors don't just look at what something is today, they look at what it could become, what demand drivers exist, and whether the infrastructure supports long-term growth. And I think that's why this project is starting to get attention from strategic buyers. Now, I also think it's important to talk about the risks here, because resort investing absolutely carries risks. And anybody presenting this as guaranteed success is being irresponsible. There are real variables. There's tourism cycles, there's economic slowdowns, there's occupancy fluctuations, there's execution risks, there's competition, interest rates, and long-term demand uncertainty. Large-scale developments also take years to fully mature. So this is not a short-term flip conversation or a guaranteed appreciation story. This is a long-duration strategic investment thesis. But overall, I think this is one of the more interesting emerging resort market stories I've seen in Ontario in quite some time. Not because it's a condo project, but because of what the broader ecosystem appears to be attempting to build. A scalable, four-season, experience-driven, hospitality-supported destination economy. And if they execute well, I think a lot more people are going to start paying attention to Calabogie over the next decade or so. And if you're looking at opportunities like this and trying to make smart real estate decisions, the most important thing is building a strategy around your goals, your timing, your risk tolerance, and how opportunities like this fit into your broader portfolio. And if you ever want help evaluating projects like this strategically, including available inventory, sold data, rental program analysis, layout comparisons, future phases, and long-term positioning opportunities, well, first, take the readiness quiz. I say that in all my videos. You'll find that on my website at markbelangerrealty.com. Again, the readiness quiz is there for you. It takes 2 minutes to fill out. It puts you in that mindset of what your goals, what your expectations, and what the order of operations might be. And I can help you map that out if it makes sense for you. And once you've taken the readiness quiz, obviously schedule a call with me. Let's take a half an hour to just purely have a conversation to see where you're at and where you're going, and maybe I can help you along your journey. So All my contact details are below. Start with the readiness quiz, book a call. I hope this information was helpful in some small way. This looks like a really interesting project. What I didn't say, unlike what we find at Tremblant as an example, most rentals cap the amount of days that you can use personally, and they throw the rest back into the rental pool. Calabogie is not like that. Calabogie lets you decide how much time you want to use personally, and whatever that is fine. The balance of the time gets thrown into the rental program. I think that's a pretty brilliant model, gives you maximum flexibility. So again, I hope this video was informative. I look forward to putting these videos together on a weekly basis. So until the next video, stay smart, stay invested. I'll see you in the next video.